this bike wasn't running right. Y'all seen that in that last video, and boy, I thought I'd found the problem, but I was way off. Thought I had an ignition problem, and the issue was it was cutting out on one cylinder. After it got hot, it would do it. So you ride it 10, 15 miles or better, and it would start acting strangely and dropping a cylinder. So I thought I had ignition problems. I swapped these coils around. I checked the pickups on the other side for the ignitions, got it down to 3. Well, I couldn't find anything wrong. And then I found this. What I've really got here is carburetor problems. As we take this apart, I'm going to show you what I found. And it's something that's very simple and easy to fix. And we are going to show you what that is. Obviously, I needed a little extra help with these old eyes, because I thought this would be easy to get running. Everything looked so good. So I started it up, took off, and just drove it 5-6 miles down the road, run like a top. And then the more I rode it, I started finding I had some kind of trouble dropping that one cylinder. And here is the little guy who's caused me all my trouble. You see that little guy? You see that ridge in it? That ridge will allow this bike to leak fuel into the float bowl. So I had one float bowl that was leaking slightly. You can see that little ridge there, and it'll seal off, but not completely seal off. So when you flip the carburetor right side up, you put fuel to it, and you test the float and lightly push it up until you feel the spring on that needle and seat, then it would just stop all fuel flow. You wouldn't see anything else. So I checked it that way. I did pull it apart and look at it with my bare eyes, but my eyes are not what they used to be. So when I got frustrated, I swapped the carburetors out of the Cal 3 onto the Cal 2. Voila. Everything was fixed. The bike run like it was supposed to. It was lean in spots and different issues that it had because the carburetors were not jetted to this motor, but it idled smooth, it pulled pretty well, it never lost a cylinder, and I went a lot farther in distance than I had before. So let's pull these apart and look at what we've got. So what I've done is I've ordered a bunch of parts to get this right. I could not find the stock size needle and seat, but what I did find was the next step up, which is a 270. These come with 250s. So with the 270, all I'm doing is getting a little bit more fuel through the needle and seat than factory. And actually, some of the bikes came from the factory with a 300 needle and seat. The performance models did. So that is something that I felt was adequate, and it wasn't going to cost me in the long run on this bike. It wasn't going to cause running trouble, in other words. So this needle and seat is easy to change out. You can see it's right there. You got a little O-ring set up there. These come with new O-rings. See the O-ring here. And this is the new seat, which is a 270. So, and let's look at the difference in these needles. So you notice the different color on this tip. And what you've got there is a Viton seat on this needle, where this other one is butyrol, or I don't remember the name, they call it Buma or something like that, and it's not as good with the ethanol and such. So good idea to change these out. But when you change them out, make sure that you pull out that O-ring that sits here in this needle and seat, because you don't want to stack them. You want to start fresh. So not only did I find this needle and seat, and what caused me to check it in such detail is the floats were quite far off from where they were supposed to be set. Whenever I realized that I was trying to fix a carburetor problem with the ignition system, which no matter how hard you try, you cannot fix a carburetor issue working on the ignition system. And vice versa, right? So got this bar here to set these on to check the float height. It needs to sit on this bell mouth, but the fuel inlet and the accelerator pump will not allow you to. So you can see there how that bounces. So like if you do that and it bounces all the way up, that's out. So you press it in, you see how it kind of slotted in there. And you're pressing against the spring there. So you want it right there according to the book. And then it's 17.5 millimeters to 18.5 millimeters on here. And if you look at this, we're way off from that. So you can see there how far off we actually are. And that's also proof that when you change your needle and seat, you need to reset this, because this carburetor had already reset with the other needle and seat in it to 18 millimeters, and it is slightly, well, it's quite a bit off still yet with these new ones. And now we're down here in the nitty gritty. And there's a lot of different ways, I say a lot, there's a few different ways I've seen people set the float height. And the way I do it is I adjust this tab here. So these are sticking way too far out, so this tab needs to be adjusted up. And then I'll just slide this in here and make sure that little hook hooks the seat or the needle. And there you are. And we've closed the gap a little bit. This takes me several tries to get it, because I don't want to have to bend that float tab back and forth very many times. So I just slowly adjust it a little as it goes. I saved y'all all of the multiple times I worked on this to get the seat right there. So exactly on 18 millimeters. So let's take this one. I remember now, I soaked this down with that silicone spray. And there it is. Hoping I didn't make a mess out of it like the other one. And there it is. Good deal. And that's without having all those little pieces I had to clean out of that other carburetor. That was a mess. So I like that way much better. These old eyes. Boy, that's so close. I'm going to try to adjust it, but it is just really, really close. It's a few thousandths off for you die-hard Americans refusing to go away to the metric world. It's a few thousandths off. I'll also say that for me, it's more about retooling than hatred for one system or the other. Those really nice calipers I've got there, and they are in inches, so I just convert everything. See if I made any adjustment whatsoever on that. I'm adjusting these to 0.70, 0.7085 to get it pretty close to 18 millimeters. Now let's see if my trying to get perfection on these floats has bit me in the butt. Now I'm going too far. No, sir. No, sir, I did not go too far. They are on. All right. Now let's get these carburetors back together and get them on the bike, see what we've got. Here's the trick. On these carburetors, and I was really struggling, so I asked for help on setting the idle on these things. Boy, I was fighting the gauges, and this thing had got so bad off it sank, and I couldn't get it back in. Use a drill bit to set your initial idle with. And wow, that's really important, because when you do that, you are starting from a place to where you know both carburetor slides are lifted the exact same amount. So you're not chasing trying to get equilibrium. You start there, and then you bring the idle down to the place to where you want it. So then you're not chasing the sink rods as they move up and down. You're actually dialing in from a known spot. And that may not make sense to you, but when you get them both started right, it's easy to stay right as you pull the sink in and get the idle down. So that's what I'm about to do now. Once we get all this set up, we will see if I've solved this problem or not. So all we're doing is we're bringing in this screw, the idle screw, there we go, until it's just touching this drill bit. And that sets, you do both sides the same. And you kind of set the drag on it like you would if you were adjusting the valves. That's just got a bit of drag on it. So what I'm doing is just updating you guys as I work on this Cal 2 to get it going. But here's something I found. I just cannot seem to get the idle proper on it. So these are the idle screws out. And I was just going to set the slides at the same, and I thought I'd go ahead and pull them all the way out. And in case you don't see it, this spring here is broken. Why does that matter? Well, that matters because spring puts pressure on that washer, and then the washer in turn puts pressure on the O-ring, and that makes sure there's not a vacuum leak there at the idle screw. This one obviously is broken, so in order to get to the place to where there's no vacuum, look how far that screw has to go in. So I've got to find another spring to put on there so that I won't have that massive air leak. And that could have been the idle problem I've had all along, where I think the floats will fix the running problem after it gets hot. Stay tuned and we'll find out if this is a fix. taking it for a ride, kind of adjusted. See, it falls pretty good back to idle, not quite as quick as I want. I think we need to bump up one on the pilot jet. But as you can see, it's idling really good. Sounds smooth. It responds to the throttle well. Definitely we'll call this one a win. There's no spitting or backfiring or popping or anything going on, and we just did a pretty hard run. So yeah, this one is definitely a win and proof that it is not an ignition problem. So we fixed this ignition problem by fixing the carburetors. So problem found, problem fixed. As you can see, when we was idling, idle's a little bit high. Going to have to come up one on the pilot jets. I've got the fuel screws backed out beyond what I'm normally comfortable with. So we'll probably go up with a pilot jet of size and be able to come back in with the fuel screws back to about 2.5 turns. That'll put the Cal 2 ready to make some road trips because it is officially fixed. This is Augie, 1 mile at a time. I'll see you guys out on the road.